Hey YouTube, welcome back to a new video with Rams fan YT. I've only just woken up. It is Sunday morning at about 8 o'clock right now, but you'll be watching it much later, well, tomorrow evening. I'm having to pre-record for 2 videos coming up this week. I'm doing something else, but they will be out because I'm recording them this morning. So welcome to History of Your Club. We've got Bristol Rovers, so it's episode 3, I believe, and an interesting club, the other Bristol one. How they sort of aren't as successful as the Bristol City, but still have been quite successful over the years as well. So in September 1883, in a meeting organised by school teacher Bill Somerton at the Eastville restaurant on Stapleton Road in Bristol, a foundation was laid for the team that would go on to be known as Bristol Rovers. The area was at the time a rugby stronghold, and this led the fledgling club to be named after the local rugby side. The Black Arab season of 1883-84 was the first played by the team. This was the only season that they used the name Black Arabs, and the name was changed to Eastville Rovers for the following season. The Black Arabs were founded by W.E. Braund and were captained by Henry Martin. The team originally wore a predominantly black kit, from which they took their name, and a gold sash was later added to the black shirts. The black and gold colour scheme went on to become a recurrent theme in the team's away kits in the 21st century. Black Arabs Football Club were not part of the league and only played friendly matches during their first season. There's no record of the goal scorers from this season, and some match results have also been lost over time. The Black Arabs played their home games on Purdown in Bristol, but found fixtures hard to come by in their early days due to the dearth of association football teams in the Bristol area. A total of 10 fixtures were eventually arranged for the inaugural season: 2 against Wootton under Edge, 2 against Warmley, 4 against Bristol Wagon Works, and 2 against Ryton Might. What a name of a club that is. The club's first fixture was played on the 1st of December 1883, when the Black Arabs took to the field in a friendly match against Wootton under Edge, a team based in Gloucestershire. The game ended in a 6-0 defeat for the Bristolians, and although no team lineups or detailed match reports have survived, a brief paragraph describing the game appeared in the Dursley Gazette 2 days later. During that season, the team came to be known by the nickname the Purdown Poachers, after their location of their home pitch, and despite the fact they only played there for a single season, the moniker stuck for some time. In November 1884, the name of the club was changed to Eastville Rovers, giving them an identity in their own right rather than being named after a rugby club. The change in name to one based on geographical location came about in an effort to broaden the appeal of the club and to draw players from a wider area. The team also moved to a new pitch for the 1884-85 season. Known as the 3 Acres, the open field with no changing facilities was in the Ashley Down area of Bristol. The precise location of the ground is not known, but it is thought to have lain somewhere between Muller Road and the county cricket ground. The team moved to a third new home in as many seasons, when they began the first of 2 spells playing at Drudham Down, remaining here they moved in 1885 and remained here for 6 seasons. It wasn't until the 14th of January 1888 that Eastville Rovers took part in some formal competition for the first time. In a meeting between Rovers and fellow Bristol-based football teams the Clifton Association, Globe Football Club, Southville, St George, St Agnes and St Simon, held in September 1887, the Gloucestershire Cup was established. This was a single elimination knockout tournament open to teams in the Bristol and Gloucestershire area. The competition began the following January, and Rovers took to the field against Clifton Association at Bell Hill, which was actually in the St George area of Bristol. Unfortunately for Rovers, they lost a player due to injury 2 minutes into the game, and in the era before the introduction of substitutes, they were forced to play the entire match with 10 men. They lost the game 4-1 with outside left Bill Bush taking the honour of becoming Eastville Rovers' first goal scorer in a competitive match. The following season, on the 6th of April 1889, Rovers won their first ever trophy by beating Warmley in the final of the second running of the Gloucestershire Cup. A single goal by Bill Perrin, scored during the second half, was enough to earn Rovers the silverware. Eastville Rovers continued to play mainly friendly matches for the next few years, as well as taking part in the Gloucestershire Cup each year. In 1890, Rovers again finished the final of this competition, losing 7-2 to Clifton Association in a game that was refereed by noted cricketer W.G. Grace. Rovers moved to their fourth home in 1891, having negotiated a fee of £8 a year to allow them to play at the Schoolmasters Cricket Ground in Horfield. The deal also meant that the football club would be responsible for the upkeep of the fencing at the ground, and they also had to provide a groundsman. 1892 was a major landmark in the history of the club, with Eastville Rovers joining an organised league for the first time. Rovers became a founding member of the Bristol and District League, which later became known as the Western Football League, and their first league game was played on the 1st of October 1892 against Mangotsfield. Although it was officially a home game for Rovers, the match was played at Mangotsfield, and Rovers were defeated by 3-1. The first season ended with Rovers placed 6th of the 9 teams in the league, with 6 wins, 2 draws and 8 defeats from 16 games played. The 1893-94 season was a poor one, with Rovers finishing 11th out of 12 teams, with only Mangotsfield being below them in the league. Things improved in 1894-95, however, with a 6th place finish. This season saw Rovers move to their 5th home, locating themselves at a ground referred to sometimes as Rudgeway and at other times as Ridgeway, in the Fish Ponds area of the city. On the 22nd of September 1894, the first meeting of the two teams that went on to become Bristol Rovers and Bristol City took place. Bristol Southend beat Bristol Rovers 2-1 at St John's Lane in Bedminster. For the 1895-96 season, the Bristol District League had renamed itself the Western League and expanded to 2 divisions. Eastville Rovers were allocated 2 places in the league, one in the Division 1 for the first team and one in Division 2 for the second 11. Rovers' first game in the Western League, like their first game in the Bristol District League 3 years earlier, was against Mangotsfield. This time, however, the result was a win to Rovers, with the game finishing 4-0. Rovers ended the season tied for second place in the league with Staple Hill, and after a playoff game between them ended in a 2-2 draw, both of the teams were declared as joint runners-up. On the 5th of October 1895, they made their first appearance in the FA Cup, although this ended in a 2-0 defeat at the hands of Warmley, and on the 25th of January 1896, the first competitive match between Eastville Rovers and Bristol Southend took place, with Rovers winning 4-0 in the Gloucestershire Cup. In the 1896-97 FA Cup, after having beaten Newbury and Bristol St George, Rovers were drawn away to the Royal Artillery Portsmouth. Rovers decided, though, that there had no hope of winning the game, and decided to save a travel expense by withdrawing from the competition. During the 1896-97 season, Rovers purchased the Eastville ground from the Bristol Harlequins Rugby Club on the 26th of March 1897, and on the 3rd of April played their first game there against Aston Villa. This would remain their home for almost 100 years. During the last few years of the 19th century, Eastville Rovers had gradually become known as Bristol Eastville Rovers, and on the 7th of February 1899, the club officially changed its name to Bristol Rovers. For the 1899-1900 season, the newly named Bristol Rovers were admitted to the Southern League. During this season, in the first season in the Southern League, Rovers faced a Sheppey United team that featured future Huddersfield Town and Arsenal manager Herbert Chapman. On the 17th of November 1900, Rovers faced Weymouth in an FA Cup qualifying match, with the score 5-1 at half-time. Rovers went on to score 10 goals in the second half, recording a 15-1 victory. A club record for the biggest win in a competitive first team match that still stands to today. And probably forever, to be honest. That win helped Jack Jones score towards a total of 9 goals in the 1900-01 FA Cup campaign, which is the most FA Cup goals scored by a Rovers player in a single season. During the 1902-03 season, Rovers won the Gloucestershire Cup for the first time after beating Bristol City 4-2 in the second replay. Another landmark was reached in the 1904-05 campaign when Jack Lewis was called up to the Welsh national team, becoming the first Bristol Rovers player to receive an international cap while still at the club. 1904-05 was a successful campaign for Rovers, the season providing the first league title and the third Gloucestershire Cup for the club. Only 6 league seasons were played during this decade due to World War I, and 1909-10 marked the beginning of a disappointing run of league performances, with the team never finishing better than 13th in the Southern League in the 6 seasons before the war. During the 1909-10 FA Cup campaign, Rovers were drawn at home to Barnsley after having previously beaten Grimsby Town. But Barnsley offered Rovers £500 to switch the tie to Oakwell, where Barnsley won 4-0. On the 27th of April to 1910, in a match against New Brompton, now known as Gillingham, Fred Corbett scored his 50th Southern League goal for Rovers, becoming the only player to score 50 goals in the Southern League for the club. Although one season of league football was played after the outbreak of the war, the 1914-15 season would be the last season of competitive football played by Rovers until 1919. On the 18th of May 1920, a meeting was held between representatives of the Southern League and the Football League, and it was decided to move all the Southern League teams into a new third division of the Football League, which up to this point had been consisted of 2 divisions. As a result, Rovers lined up against Millwall on the 28th of August 1920 for their first match as a Football League side, which they lost 2-0. This season also saw Rovers change their team colours from black and white stripes, that had been used since 1899, to white jerseys with blue shorts. The first Rovers players to be sent off in the Football League was Bill Paines, who was expelled on the 4th of February 1922 during a game with Luton Town at Eastville. Attendances were high during this period. On several occasions during this decade, matches between the 2 Bristol clubs attracted crowds of 30,000 spectators. Even reserve team matches were well attended. A Southern League game against Bristol City, played in April 1923 at Ashton Gate, attracted 7,000 fans. In September 1922, an Egyptian engineering student at the University of Bristol called Mahmoud Mokhtar Sakir had an unsuccessful trial during a reserve game with Bristol Rovers. Although he did not earn a professional contract in Bristol or at Tranmere Rovers, where he also had a trial, he went on to become a 6-time winner of the Egyptian Player of the Year award. And another noteworthy player to play for Rovers in this decade was Ronnie Dix, who was born on the 5th of September 1912. He made his debut on the 25th of February 1928 against Charlton Athletic at the age of 15 years, 173 days, making him the youngest player to represent Bristol Rovers in a competitive first-team match. 1 week later, in a game against Norwich City, on the 3rd of March 1928, he scored his first goal at an age of 15 years, 180 days, making him the youngest goal scorer in Football League history. A record that stands today, and he remained the only 15-year-old to play for Rovers for almost 77 years, when Scott Sinclair made his debut aged 15 years, 275 days in December 2004. Bristol Rovers manager David McLean resigned on the 17th of September 1930, and his replacement, Captain Albert Prince Cox, brought many changes to the club. One of his first actions as manager was to take the club on a mid-season tour of the Netherlands. And on the 16th of November 1930, Rovers beat the Dutch national team at 3-2, just 24 hours after beating Coventry City 1-0 in the league. One of the innovations introduced by Albert Prince Cox was the blue and white quartered shirts, which are still worn today. These were first used during the 1931-32 season, and Prince Cox believed that they made the players look larger and more intimidating. During the 1931-32 season, the team took part in 2 mid-season tours of the Netherlands and one of France. The team also returned to France at the end of the season, where they played AC Milan and a French starting 11, losing both games 3-1. The sequence of events that eventually resulted in Bristol Rovers leaving the city and playing their home games in Bath during the 1980s began in 1932, when Rovers agreed to lease Eastville Stadium to the Bristol Greyhound Racing Association. That included a clause stating that if Rovers was to sell the stadium, then the Greyhound Association would have the first refusal, and that the price would not exceed £13,000. In 1934, the lease was amended to allow Bristol Greyhound Racing Association to buy the stadium whenever they wished to purchase it, providing that they gave 2 months' notice in writing to the football club. The purchase price was guaranteed to be not less than £8,000 and not more than £13,000. In 1939, Rovers wrote to the Greyhound Company, informing that they were prepared to sell the stadium. The Greyhound Company replying with an offer of £20,000 for the freehold. On the 13th of April 1935, the Rovers played Watford in the final of the Division 3 South Cup at the Old Den. The match was played at a neutral venue because both clubs had refused to take part in a coin toss to decide home advantage. Rovers won the match 3-2, winning their only national trophy in the period between World War I and World War II. During a match with Luton Town on the 13th of April 1936, Rovers suffered the biggest defeat in their history, losing 12-0. 10 of the goals were scored by Joe Payne, which is still a league record for most goals scored by a single player in a match. Rovers finished bottom of the league in 1938-39 season and were forced to apply for re-election to the league when competitive football resumed after the war. Official league football resumed after World War II for the 1946-47 season, and during the war Rovers had played mainly friendly games and also took part in the unofficial Division 3 South competition in 1945-46. The Bristol Rovers Supporters Club was set up in 1947 to provide financial support to the club, and the first chairman was the former Gloucestershire cricketer Hampden Alpass. The 1950s was the most successful decade in the history of Bristol Rovers. The club reached the quarter-finals of the FA Cup twice, achieved their highest ever placing in the football pyramid, won a divisional title, and had a player called up to the England squad of Jeff Bradford, who won his first and only international cap for England in 1955, when he played and scored in a 5-1 win over Denmark. This was the only time a Bristol Rovers player has ever played for England. During the Second World War, the Bristol Greyhound Racing Association had invested money into Bristol Rovers, and as a result, the Greyhound Association had taken control of the football club's accounts and board of directors. In 1950, an FA commission, after examining the club's books, fined Bristol Rovers £250 and ordered the Greyhound Company to relinquish its controlling interest in the football club and banned club secretary Charles Ferrari from then football club management. In the 1950-51 season, Bristol Rovers reached the quarter-finals of the FA Cup for the first time. The quarter-final was against Newcastle United at St James's Park and was a 0-0 draw. The attendance at this game was 62,787, and it remains the largest ever crowd to watch a match involving Bristol Rovers. The replay at Eastville attracted an attendance of 30,074 to see Newcastle win 3-1. This season also saw the adoption of the Goodnight Irene as a favourite song of the Bristol Rovers fans. The song was sung at Rovers fans by supporters of Plymouth Argyle before a match at Eastville, because a version of it was in the charts at the time, and again to taunt Rovers fans after Argyle had taken the lead. Rovers went on to win the game 3-1 and replied to the Plymouth taunts by singing Goodnight Argyle. The song remained popular with the Rovers fans and over the years became an anthem of the supporters. The first league title to be won by Bristol Rovers since the 1904-05 Southern League Championship was the 1952-53 Division 3 South title. This was the first time Rovers had won promotion since joining the Football League in 1920. The highest ever league placing by Rovers was achieved in both 1955-56 and 1958-59 seasons, when the team finished in 6th place in the second tier of league football. In 1955-56, Rovers only missed out on promotion from top flight by 4 points. Perhaps the most impressive win in the history of the Bristol Rovers was the 4-0 FA Cup victory over Manchester United, managed by Matt Busby, on the 7th of January 1956. 5 of the United players on that day were later to die in the Munich air disaster. In the same competition during the 1957-58 season, Rovers reached the quarter-finals for the second time, where they lost 3-1 to Fulham at Craven Cottage. The biggest comeback in the history of Bristol Rovers came on the 29th of August 1960, when Rovers trailed Leeds United 4-0 at half-time at Eastville. Rovers then scored 4 goals in the second half, resulting in a 4-all draw. In the 1960-61 season was the debut of the Football League Cup, and Rovers are credited with being the first winners of a game in this competition. On the 26th of September 1960, Rovers beat Fulham 2-1 at Eastville in front of a crowd of 20,022. Although other first round games were played on the same evening, the Rovers v Fulham game kicked off early at 7:15 p.m, meaning that this was the first result in the competition. The 1961-62 season saw Bristol Rovers get relegated to Division 3, having finished in 21st place with 33 points. For the 1962-63 season, Rovers abandoned their now familiar blue and white quarters in favour of blue pinstripes. Also in this season, the club signed goalkeeper Esmond Million from Middlesbrough for £5,000. In April 1963, the People newspaper ran a story alleging that Million had accepted a bribe to lose a match against Bradford Park Avenue on the 20th of April. During the game, he allowed a back pass to slip past him and allowed a cross to go, enabling Bradford to score twice. Unfortunately for Million, Rovers were also scored twice, so the game ended 2-2, and Million did not receive the money he had been offered to lose the game. Million and his accomplishment Keith Williams were fined £50 each by the Doncaster Magistrates Court and banned from football for life by the FA. On the 14th of December 1963, during a 4-0 victory over Bristol City, Jeff Bradford scored his final goal for Rovers. This was his 242nd league goal for the club, which still stands as a club record, and he scored a total of 355 goals for the club in all competitions and reserve team games. The furthest Bristol Rovers have ever progressed in the League Cup is in the quarter-finals. This was achieved twice in the consecutive seasons of 1971 and 1971-72. On the first occasion, Rovers lost their quarter-final match against Aston Villa 1-0 in a replay at Villa Park, having drawn 1-1 at Eastville. The following season, they lost 4-2 at home to Stoke City, in front of a crowd of 33,624 at the same stage of the competition. In July 1972, Rovers appointed Don Megson as their new manager. His first task as manager was to guide the team through the Wally Cup, where the team beat Wolves and Burnley to reach the final of the competition at Eastville. On the 5th of August 1972, Rovers faced Sheffield United in the final in a match that was drawn at 0-0 at full time. A penalty shootout was held to decide the winners, and Rovers won 7-6, meaning that Megson had won a trophy after only 3 matches as manager. Also that season, Rovers made a good progress in the League Cup. In the third round, they played a Manchester United side that included Bobby Charlton and George Best, and drew 1-1 at Eastville, earning a replay at Old Trafford. Rovers won the replay 2-1 and progressed to play Wolves in the 4th round, but failed to make it to a third consecutive quarter-final after losing 4-0. For the 1973-74 season, Rovers have switched back to their blue and white quartered shirts, which they have worn ever since. This coincided with a promotion-winning season, with the season placed in Division 3, second place in Division 3, earning them a second spell in the second division. On their way to promotion, the team won 8-2 away to Brighton and Hove Albion, managed by Brian Clough, and the only 8-2 away win ever recorded in the third division. This was the only league game where the 2 Bristol Rovers players scored hat-tricks in the same match, with Alan Warboy scoring 4 and Bruce Bannister scoring 3. Although the revered Warboys and Bannister strike force would be broken up, Rovers remained in the second division for the remainder of the decade. Rovers' heaviest post-war league defeats came during the 1977-78 season, when they lost 9-0 to Tottenham Hotspur at White Hart Lane. Shortly after this result, manager Don Megson left the club to join Portland Timbers in the NASL. On the 24th of October 1978, Rovers played a friendly against the Zambian national team at Eastville, where the touring side were beaten 4-1. The 1980-81 season was one of the worst in the club's history. Rovers won just 5 league games during the season and only 4 home wins in all competitions. The team was relegated at the end of the season, finishing in last place, 7 points below the next worst team at Bristol City. The club had also failed to agree an extension to the lease on their stadium, which had had its capacity reduced from 30,000 to 12,500 due to new safety laws. Causing fears that they would have to find a new home, on the 17th of August 1980, a fire started in the South Grandstand in the Eastville Stadium, destroyed the administrative offices and changing rooms. As a result, Rovers were forced to play 5 games at Ashton Gate, 3 in the league and 2 in the League Cup. This location was not popular with the fans, however, who considered this to be enemy territory, and all 5 games were poorly attended. During the 1981-82 season, with the lease of Eastville coming to an end, Rovers were offered deals to ground shared by both Bristol City and Bath City. However, a 5-year extension to their existing lease was agreed, and Rovers would remain at Eastville until 1986. Before the lease was agreed, the Rovers chairman Martin Fluke had made an offer of £450,000 to buy Ashton Gate Stadium from Bristol City, who were on the verge of bankruptcy at the time. However, when City reformed as Bristol City in 1982 plc, this bid was rejected. Unlike Bristol City, who had suffered 3 consecutive relegations in the early 80s, Rovers stabilised in the 3rd division. The goals of Paul Randall and playmaking skills of David Williams were later able to keep Rovers in promotion contention in the first half of the decade. But following Williams' departure to Norwich City, 2 poorer seasons followed before the appointment of Jerry Francis as manager in 1987. The only World Cup winner to play for Bristol Rovers was Alan Ball, who won the tournament with England in 1966. He signed for the club in January 1983 and made 17 league appearances, scoring 2 goals. It would be his final season before retiring as a player. The last game to be played at Eastville was on the 26th of April 1986, when Rovers drew 1-1 with Chesterfield in front of just 3,576 spectators. The following season saw Rovers move to Bath City's Twerton Park ground, where they would remain for 10 years. 1 home game during the season in Bath was played at Ashton Gate, however. The match against Swindon Town was played in front of 8,196 spectators in an effort to raise money to help Rovers' financial problems. At the start of the 1987-88 season, former Rovers player Jerry Francis was appointed as manager. He immediately went about building this team that would go on to win the 3rd Division title within 3 seasons, signing Nigel Martin, Ian Holloway and Devon White before the start of his first season in charge. The following season, 1988-89, Rovers reached the 3rd Division playoff for the first time, but they failed to win promotion, losing by a single goal to Port Vale. Success in the league was achieved by Jerry Francis in his third season as Bristol Rovers manager. The team won the 1989-90 3rd Division, clinching promotion on the 2nd of May 1990, with a 3-0 victory over local rivals Bristol City, who finished second and were also promoted. This match inspired the title of a former Bristol Rovers fanzine, the 2nd of May. The championship winning season was rounded off by the club's first ever appearance at Wembley Stadium, where they lost 2-1 to Tranmere Rovers in the final of the Leyland DAF Cup, now known as the EFL Trophy. 32,000 Rovers fans travelled to Wembley for the match, which was also attended by cult band and Tranmere fans Half Man Half Biscuit, who later performed Goodnight Irene on John Peel's radio show as a tribute to the Bristol Rovers fans on that day. The following season, the Rovers suffered a second fire at their ground. 10 years after the fire at Eastville, the main stand at Twerton Park was damaged on the 16th of September 1990 in what was later found to be an arson attack. 7 Bristol City fans were later tried and convicted of the crime. The first 2 seasons back in the second division saw Rovers finish a credible 13th place, their highest in the league since the 1950s. In the 1990-91 season, the side were outsiders for the playoff place before petering out in mid-table. Jerry Francis left for QPR and was succeeded by Martin Dobson, who left following a dismal start to 1991-92. Dennis Roth brought a turnaround in form to finish in mid-table. Rovers' third season in the second tier of the league resulted in relegation. Dennis Roth was sacked following another awful start, and veteran manager Malcolm Allison was appointed in an effort to turn things around, without much success. John Ward in turn replaced Allison near the end of the season, but little improvement followed. At the end of the 1992-93 season, Rovers were bottom of the division, now known as the Division 1 due to the creation of the FA Premier League. The club made their most expensive signing ever during the season, buying Andy Tilson from QPR for £370,000. A second appearance at Wembley was earned at the end of the 1994-95 season. In the second division playoff final, Rovers lost by the same scoreline as their only other game to be played there of 2-1. This time the opponents were Huddersfield Town, and the attendance was 59,175, and is the second highest ever at Bristol Rovers game. Also during this season, Rovers faced their landlords Bath City in the first round in the FA Cup. Rovers won the game 5-0, and unusually for a game involving a league team, there was no fan segregation, and the following season Rovers failed to make a serious challenge for the playoffs, resulting in the sacking of John Ward and his replacement by former player Ian Holloway. Rovers' return to Bristol was at the beginning of the 1996-97 season. Bristol Rugby Club were experiencing financial difficulties and offered Rovers the opportunity to buy half of the Memorial Ground, now known as the Memorial Stadium, for £2.3 million. The stadium was not ready for league football, however, and the first game of the season was to be played at Twerton Park. The return to Bristol was finally achieved with the second home game of the season against Stockport County, a game that was drawn 1-1. The Bristol Rovers home kit for this season featured an unusual striped quarter design known as the club's fans as the Tesco bag shirts, in reference to the company's blue and white striped carrier bags. This design was not universally popular, I can see why I've got a picture on my screen, and prompted the Trumpton Times fanzine to change its name to What? No Quarters. On the 17th of April 1998, Bristol Rugby Club were placed in receivership, invoking a clause in the tenancy agreement, allowing Rovers to buy the other half of the Memorial Ground for £100,000. Rovers now own their own stadium for the first time since 1939. Until the end of the 2000-2001 season, Bristol Rovers had been the only team in the Football League never to have played in the first of the 4 levels of the league. This record ended when the team were relegated to Division 3 for the 2001-2 season. Holloway resigned at the halfway point of the season, and Gary Thompson took over for the rest of the campaign, but was unable to prevent the relegation. Jerry Francis returned to the club and oversaw a good start that saw them top of the division at the end of August. Results soon faded, however, and it became clear that Rovers were not going to get out of the division at the first attempt. Francis resigned due to personal issues in December, with the side in 20th place, leading to Gary Thompson being reinstated as manager. Despite masterminding a cup upset against Premier League opponents Derby County, Rovers' league form remained poor, and the club hit its lowest ebb, finishing second bottom of the whole league and only surviving due to a truly awful season by bottom-placed Halifax Town. With the league introducing 2 relegation places from Division 3 for next season, it was obvious that Rovers would have to improve quickly, and Thompson was duly sacked and replaced by former player Ray Graydon. While Graydon had experienced promotion success twice with Walsall, he had failed to significantly improve Rovers' form, and the next 2 seasons were also faced fighting relegation to the conference. Soon Graydon was gone and Ian Atkins took the hot seat. A slight improvement occurred, resulting in Rovers hovering in mid-table, and this was far from what the board and fans wanted. however, and after just over a season in charge, Atkins was dismissed. In his place, the football club appointed Paul Trollope as player manager, aided by Director of Football Lenny Lawrence. Trollope's first season in full charge of the 2005-06 campaign saw the club briefly contend for the playoffs, but eventually resulted in another mid-table 12th place finish. Improvements were needed, and they came during the 2006-07 season, when Rovers reached the final of their Football League trophy for the second time in the club's history, and the team were beaten 3-2 by Doncaster Rovers after extra time. Having drawn 2-2 after 90 minutes at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff, Richard Walker and Sammy Igoe putting Rovers back on level terms, after Jonathan Forte and Paul Heffernan scored early goals for Donny. Graham Lee's header after 110 minutes settled the game in the opponent's favour. The team also managed to qualify for the playoffs, finishing 6th in the final table, the last playoff spot awarded to a team, where they played third place and tie favourites Lincoln City. Rovers qualified for the final at the new Wembley Stadium after a 7-4 aggregate win over Lincoln. In the final at Wembley Stadium, they faced Shrewsbury Town, in front of 40,000 Gasheads and 20,000 Shrews. Bristol Rovers won by 3-1 in what was a thrilling match. Richard Walker and Sammy Igoe were the Wembley heroes once again, despite Stuart Drummond's goal inside the first 3 minutes. The game was marked, though, by the home match atmosphere created by the huge Rover support and their almost endless singing of the signature song Goodnight Irene. Rovers also became only the second team behind Chelsea to have played at both the Millennium Stadium and Wembley Stadium in the same season. It turned out to be a great season for the city, as Bristol Rovers' arch rivals Bristol City were celebrating their own success, finishing second to Scunthorpe United in their own league, securing promotion to the Championship for the 2007-08 season. 2007-08 saw Rovers survive in League One as they finished in 16th, with the prospect of relegation never really finding its way around the club. However, top 6 was always a bit ambitious, and it proved to be a transitional season for the club, just to find their feet amongst the division. A run in the League Cup was halted by Premier League West Ham United in just the second round. Craig Bellamy scoring 2 first-half goals for the East Londoners, and Rovers had got through to this game as a result of an unfancied win against Crystal Palace at the Memorial Stadium, thanks to Craig Disley sending the tie into extra time with a 63rd minute equaliser, setting the impetus for Rovers to go on and win 4-1 on penalties. However, the big news of the season was a brilliant run to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup, where they were finally eliminated 5-1 at the expense of high-flying Championship side West Bromwich Albion. Throughout this run, Rovers had seen off the challenge of League One rivals Leyton Orient, where after 2 draws, Rovers won the tie 6-5 on penalties. Non-League Rushden and Diamonds, Premier League side Fulham 5-3 on penalties, League 2 strugglers Barnet a comfortable 2-0 success, and Coca-Cola Championship outfit Southampton, where an 85th minute free kick from Ricky Lambert on his 26th birthday saw Rovers into the last 8. There was to be no repeat, however. The following season, Rovers were knocked out by League 2 side AFC Bournemouth in the very first round of the competitions proper. Rovers were also knocked out of the first round of the other 2 competitions. Despite this setback, Trollope's men went on to finish comfortable 11th in the table, as a 29-goal hero Ricky Lambert played what was to be his last season in a blue and white shirt. These 29 goals all came in the domestic league, and Lambert shared this tally with Swindon Town's Simon Cox, who, just like Lambert, was to be playing his last season for his club. Moving to West Bromwich Albion in the Coca-Cola Championship. Despite the loss of striker Lambert, a fine start to the 2009-10 season pushed Rovers into a 3rd place in the table at the start of October, which included a thrilling 3-2 victory away to Southampton on the 29th September, in which a last-minute 96th, to be precise, goal by Andy Williams saw Rovers clinch victory and go 4 points clear of 4th place Colchester United. A run of 5 successive defeats, however, including 5-1 and 4-1 defeats to Norwich City and Leeds United, respectively, saw Rovers drop out of the playoff places. Rovers maintained a very consistent level of performances throughout the remainder of the season, never falling out of the top 10 positions of the league table. Eventually, though, on the 10th of April 2010, Rovers' playoff hopes were put to an end for another season, after losing 2-1 away to Oldham Athletic. The side finished the season in 11th place, after gaining only 1 point from their last 6 games. Rovers' poor form continued into the 2010-11 season, and they were in the relegation zone from the first weeks of the campaign. On the 15th of December 2010, Paul Trellope was sacked following a poor run of form. On the 20th of January 2010, Dave Penny was appointed as his replacement, and under the new manager, Rovers proceeded to lose 9 out of the next 13 games. Penny's tenure as manager was brought to an end after barely 2 months, with the club bottom of the table. Stuart Campbell took over as caretaker for the rest of the season, and despite steering the side a credible 16 points from 12 games, Campbell was unable to prevent relegation, and the club's horrid mid-season run ultimately proving too much to recover from. While Campbell was favoured to be installed as full-time manager, the board instead chose to appoint Paul Buckle, manager of that season's losing League Two player finalist Torquay United. Buckle failed to repeat the success he had brought to Torquay, and only exacerbated the situation when he fell out with fan favourite Campbell, leading to the dismissal in January 2012. With the club in the lower reaches of League Two, he was replaced by Mark McGee, who improved the club's fortunes and steered them to safety and a 13th place finish. McGee heavily invested in the squad in the post-season, and Rovers were considered among the favourites for promotion to League One. However, the club made a dire start and were near the bottom of the table from the earliest weeks of the season. By December 2012, it was clear that Rovers were in perhaps the biggest danger of dropping out of the Football League they had ever been, which resulted in McGee being sacked and former manager John Ward returning to the club. The club's form greatly improved in the weeks that followed, and another safe finish was achieved, this time in 14th. 2013-14 looked to be the repeating pattern of the previous 2 seasons, with mediocre initial form followed by a climb to mid-table by early spring. However, a terrible run of form then set in, resulting in Ward being moved upstairs to the role of director in football, a role he was ultimately sacked from literally days after the season ended, and replaced by his assistant Darrell Clark. A win in a vital 6-pointer against Wycombe Wanderers in the penultimate match appeared to have secured Rovers' league status and condemned Wycombe to relegation. Rovers only required a draw in their final league match at home to Mansfield, but were defeated 1-0 by both Wycombe and Northampton Town won their own final matches. It meant that Rovers' 94-year stay in the Football League was over, finishing behind Wycombe only on goal difference. Despite overseeing the club's relegation into the Conference Premier, Clark remained in charge. An indifferent start to the season, with Rovers picking up just 1 point from their first 3 games, and a third defeat in 7 in their away fixture with part-timers Braintree Town, saw calls for the manager to be sacked. What followed was an incredible run of just 2 defeats in 39 league games, as Rovers came agonisingly close to making an immediate return to the Football League, finishing as runners-up to Barnet. They were promoted back to the League Two after winning the playoff final against Grimsby Town on penalties. Even after another indifferent start to the season, winning only 10 points from their first 9 games, Rovers went on to complete a second successful promotion in 2015-16. Rovers were amongst the playoff chasers from around midway point in the season, before saw the team pick up 35 points from their final 42, was enough to see them finish in 3rd place, an automatic promotion at the expense of Accrington Stanley on goal difference. Promotion was only secured with an injury-time winner from defender Lee Brown in a 2-1 victory over already relegated Dagenham at Redbridge, a goal that had gone down in Rovers' folklore. 2016-17 was Rovers' first season back in the 3rd tier in 6 seasons, and saw the club flirt with a 3rd successive promotion. While their home form was good, their away form was poor. A 10th place finish, just 6 points off the playoffs, was respectable though, and represented their highest finishing position in the English football pyramid in 17 years. The following season was another where Rovers' reasonable home form was let down by dreadful away results. At the halfway point, Rovers were just 4 points above the relegation zone. More consistent results from the second half saw the club again finishing a respectable mid-table spot, this time 13th, never really threatening to make headlines at either end of the table. Darrell Clarke's reign as manager was to come to an end during the 2018-19 season, with the club staring down the barrel of a return to League Two. Clarke's finishing game as the manager was a 4-0 drubbing at home to Doncaster Rovers in December 2018. Graham Coughlin was appointed in Clarke's place, initially on a caretaker basis, before being handed the role permanently in January 2019. Coughlin's appointment saw a much-needed improvement in results, although it was the penultimate match of the season before Rovers confirmed their survival. 15th place represented a reasonable finish after a difficult season, and during the 2019-20 season, Rovers initially mounted a promotion push and were as high as 4th following an impressive 2-1 win away at Ipswich Town. The Ipswich game would prove to be Coughlin's final game in charge, with the Irishman hinting in his post-match interview that he could take the club no further, and of his desire to work closer to his Sheffield home. 3 days later, Coughlin was appointed manager of League Two side Mansfield Town, and Rovers handed Ben Gardner his first managerial role on the 23rd of December 2019. Rovers' form following Coughlin's departure nosedived, and the season of promise could have easily turned into a relegation battle were it not for the expulsion of Berry and a 12-point deduction for Bolton Wanderers. Following Gardner's appointment, Rovers recorded just 2 wins, 4 draws and 9 defeats in the league, though Gardner was absent for part of January due to a family illness. On the 13th of March 2020, all football in the UK was suspended due to the worsening COVID-19 pandemic, initially until the 3rd of April, then until the 30th of April at the earliest. On the 9th of June, and with no end to the crisis in sight, League One clubs voted to end the season early, with the league table decided on a points per game basis. Rovers therefore finished the season 14th with 1.29 points per game. The final game before the suspension was arguably their best performance of the season, a 2-0 home win over Sunderland. The 2020-21 season began with lots of optimism for Rovers, following several promising high-profile signings, but then Garner failed to turn around the form that he had overseen in the second half of the previous season, and was sacked in November 2020, following a 4-1 home defeat to Fleetwood Town, with Rovers having only won 12 points from 11 matches. On the 19th of November, Paul Tisdale was brought in as new manager. Tisdale failed to reverse the side's poor form, picking up just 12 points in their next 15 matches, including a 6-1 defeat at Accrington Stanley, also failing to bring in a striker during the January transfer window. On account of these failures, Tisdale was sacked on the 10th of February 2021, after just less than 3 months in charge, with Rovers only outside of relegation zone on goal difference. Again, a change in manager failed to bring about change in luck, and on the 24th of April 2021, a 1-0 defeat to Portsmouth saw Rovers finish 9 points off of safety with 2 games remaining, subsequently confirmed their relegation back to League Two. A 1-0 defeat at Blackpool on the final day saw Rovers finish 5 points adrift of the bottom of the table and 10 points off safety. Following a relegation to League Two, there was a large squad overhaul ahead of a new season, with manager Joey Barton bringing in 14 players in the summer window and seeing 21 players leave the club. The club had a poor start to the season, and the lowest point being a 4-1 thrashing by Exeter City in the 4th match of the season, in which the hosts secured all 4 of their goals in the first 24 minutes. On the 25th of September, the club secured a first away win since December 2020, with a last-minute win over Walsall. This win seemingly saving manager Barton from the sack. Rovers' form did start to slowly improve towards the end of 2021, and they finished the year in the 15th position after a 4-2 victory over Rochdale on the 11th of December. A COVID-19 outbreak in the squad meant they did not play another league match until the 15th of January. This break seemed to reignite Rovers' season, with the club going on a remarkable run of form in the new year, with manager Barton being nominated for the Manager of the Month award for January, before winning the award for March. Inspired by new loan signing Elliot Anderson, with fellow January loan signing James Connolly, adding what appeared to be the final piece of the puzzle to a solid defensive unit. Rovers continued to climb the table, and on the 15th of March, following a 1-0 win over Colchester United, Rovers found themselves in the playoff positions for the first time in the season. Their season culminated in a 7-0 home victory against Scunthorpe to achieve automatic promotion in dramatic fashion. Northampton's 3-1 victory meant that the Gas would need to score all 7 without conceding in either to be promoted by goals scored, with the two sides being both level on points. This victory marks the first time Rovers have been in the automatic spot for the entire duration of the season and ensured that they would play in the EFL League One in 2022-23. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you're new around here. There will be my League 2 predictions coming up, although you probably don't care about that anymore, on Friday. And I don't know if I'll be able to make a History of Your Club on Monday. Depends about timing. But goodbye for now.